האם זה באמת סגולה בדוקה? הסגולה ללמוד בזה?
Erev Tov, good evening, everyone. We are in the Zera Shimshon on Parshas Vayakhel. This Shabbos, of course, is a double Parsha. We read Vayakhel Pekude. We're going to take a look at section Hey. I say Os Hey, section number 5 on Parshas Vayakhel. And before we do, we're going to take a look at a pasuk from the Parsha, from Parshas Vayakhel. And here it comes. The Parsha, of course, starts off talking about the Mishkan and gets into a detailed description of what people brought and how things were put together and counted and how things were assembled. It's a lot of information that we feel we already know, but it's given to us in a lot more detail here in Parshas Vayakhel and then following up with Pekude. So this is Perek Lamed Hey. This is Pasuk Chav Zayin, and the Pasuk says, V'hanesiim heviu, and the princes brought Eis Avnei HaShoham, the Shoham stones, Ve'eis Avnei HaMiluim, and the setting stones, the stones that were to be put into special settings, La Ephod, for the Ephod, Ve'la Choshen, and for the breastplate. The Ephod and the Choshen, as we've discussed in the past, I believe, were 2 of the 8 special begodim, the special holy garments that the Kohen Gadol wore. A regular Kohen wore 4 special holy garments, and a Kohen Gadol wore 8. And one was the ephod, and one was the choshen. And those 2 garments had precious stones embedded into them. The ephod had straps that came up on the shoulders, and there were 2 large shoham stones here. And then the breastplate, of course, had the 12 stones that we talked about not long ago. And one of them was a shoham stone as well, along with 11 other types of precious stones. So in this pasuk, the word nesiim is written without a yud that it would normally have. And the Zera Shimshon is going to start with that. And let's take a look at that right now. Os Hey, pasuk. The pasuk says, "V'hanesiim heviu," and the princes brought. If you look at the word nesiim, normally there would be a yud between the sin and the aleph. Between those 2 letters, there would be a yud, but it's not there, and it's not in the Torah. That letter is missing. But the princes brought the different stones. Amar Rabbi Nosson. This is a quote from the Medrash that Rashi brings down. And Rabbi Nosson says, Ma ro'u nesiim lehisnadev. What did the princes see that when they came to make their donations b'chanukas hamizbeach, at the dedication of the altar, techila, they came first. V'lo osu kain b'nidvas hamishkan, but they did not do that when it came to bringing their donations for the Mishkan. So this Rabbi Nosson is asking a question as to why the Nesiim, why the princes changed their practice when it came to bringing items for the construction of the Mishkan. They waited and they brought their items at the end, after the Jewish people, after Bnei Yisrael had brought all of their donations. But when it came to the dedication of the Mizbeach, the Nesiim rushed forward and brought the items that they were going to donate first. Why did they change their procedure? Ella Amru, but here's what happened. They said, Yisnadvu tzibor masha yisnadvu. When their first chance came, which was when the people brought donations for the Mishkan, the Nesiim thought, let's let the congregation, let's let all the people, all of the members of the different tribes, let's let them donate whatever they're planning to donate. Umashe yechzar, and what is missing at the end of their donations, anu mashlimin oso. We will make up whatever is missing. So they had a very nice thought. They thought to themselves, let's let people give, and then we'll show our willingness and dedication to give whatever's missing by waiting. Then whatever's missing we'll bring. We're going to make sure the Mishkan has everything it needs by waiting for the people to bring whatever they bring, and then we'll complete anything that's missing. Kivan shehi shlimu tzibor hakol. But once the people of all the tribes, once the tzibur, the congregation of Bnei Israel, completed the whole process, and they brought practically everything that was needed, then heviu avnei hashoham, then they brought the shoham stones and the stones for the choshen, for the breastplate. In other words, things backfired a little bit on them because the people were incredibly generous. And as we know, famous pasuk in the Torah, Moshe had to tell the people, stop, it's enough. Please don't bring any more. They kept bringing, and everything basically was covered. All the needs of the Mishkan were covered. And then the Nesiim were left only being able to bring a few more items that were, of course, important, but nowhere near what they had hoped to be able to donate. Ulefi, so just to continue the thought that the Zera Shimshon skips over, so the Nesiim learned their lesson, so to speak, and when it came time to bring donations for the dedication of the Mizbeach, they didn't wait. They did not adopt their original practice of saying, let's wait for everyone to donate and then we'll donate. They came right to the fore, they came right in front, and they said, before anyone else gets a chance, we're going to donate all of these important things, and that's what they did because they learned their lesson. However, since when it came to the Mishkan, they delayed at first and they didn't bring their donations and they were left coming up a little short, Nedra os mishmam, a letter was held back or removed from their name. Vehanisiim ksiv, and that's why the Torah writes the word vehanisiim, which means in the princes, missing the letter yud. Ad Kahn, until here is a quote from the Medrash, which again you can see in Rashi right on this pasuk in Chumash. So the Zera Shimshon says, next paragraph, Yesh ledaktik, we need to analyze and examine. Tama mai ne'enshu ba'onesh zeh. What is the reason why they were punished with this specific punishment? Why was their punishment to lose a yud from the name Nesiim? Uma mida keneged mida ika, and what type of punishment is this that matches the crime, so to speak? How does losing a yud from the word Nesiim match up and fit and correspond to what the Nesiim did and their lack of alacrity in bringing their donations when the call for items for the Mishkan was first made? That is the Zera Shimshon's question. Next paragraph, V'yodua, and it is known, Masha Kosav Harav, what the rabbi wrote, what the Rav wrote, and this Rav, from the reference in the parentheses, you can see that he's talking about the Arizal, the great Ari, the great Kabbalist, the Kabbalist teacher, Kabbalistic teacher, and this is what he wrote: Shebin nesinas hatzedakah, that when a person gives charity, yesh lo le'odam, a person should lechavein, have special kavonen, keep this specially in mind. V'hoya maaseh hatzedakah shalom. When a person gives charity, they should have this pasuk from Yeshaya in mind, which says, "V'haya," and it was maaseh hatzedakah, the act of charity, shalom, is peace. They should think about those words, and they should think about that pasuk when they give tzedakah. V'hapruta shehu nosein le'ani, and when a person actually gives a coin to a poor person, who remez layud shebeshem, it is a hint to the letter yud in the name of Hashem. So if you look back at the words in the pasuk, if we look back, v'hoya maaseh hatzdaka shalom, the word v'hoya has the exact 4 letters from the 4-letter name of Hashem: a vav, a hey, a yud, and a hey. The 4-letter name of Hashem is a yud, a hey, a vav, and a hey. So the same exact letters are here in the word v'haya, and the Zera Shimshon is saying that the v'haya represents the 4-letter name of Hashem, and when a person gives a coin to a poor person, a poor individual, that is corresponds to, or that is a hint to the letter Yud in the four-letter name of Hashem. V'chan shehem lo heviu tzidkosam v'nidvosam l'Hashem. And so here in this episode of the Nisim, of the princes delaying and not bringing their gift ahead of time to the Mishkan, Nedra Os Yud Mishmam. The letter Yud, which represents, which hints to the actual act of giving tzedakah, that was taken out of their name. So right here in this first paragraph, which is a little unusual for the Zera Shimshon, he has answered his question, but only in part. We're going to see that for all of the rest of the piece, he's going to bring additional answers and perspectives on this question. But his first answer is that the letter Yud in the four-letter name of Hashem, and also in this pasuk of V'hoya Maseh Hatzdaka Shalom, is connected to the act of giving tzedakah. And the Nesiim, when they should have brought their donation ahead of everyone else for the Mishkan, that can be viewed as a type of tzedakah, a type of donation that they wanted to make. And because they were late and delayed, therefore the letter Yud was taken out of their name. Let's continue to the next paragraph. Ve'od b'derech acher, and we can suggest another answer in a different way. Amru b'zohar. It was stated in the Zohar, Ki ha-mishkan hu remez la'olam hazeh u'la'olam haba. The Mishkan is an illusion. It alludes to this world and the next world. When we think of the Mishkan and when we study the different kalim, the different utensils and structures in the Mishkan and how things were set up, and how things were done in the Mishkan, we should realize that there are allusions and connections that correspond both to this world, to Olam Hazeh, and to Olam Haba, and to the next world, according to the Zohar. Vehem shelo heviu nidvosam techila, and these princes who did not bring their donation first, limeleches hamishkan, for the work of the Mishkan, chotu biyud vehe. They sinned, so to speak, with the letter Yud and the letter He. And what that means is that based on a Gemara, and you can see in the parentheses, based on a Gemara in Menachos, where it states that the letter He represents this world, and the letter Yud represents Olam Haba, represents the next world. And the Mishkan is symbolizes, and it corresponds to both this world and the next world. So since the Nesiim were late in bringing their gifts to the Mishkan, which represents both this world and the next world, that was a sin, so to speak, against the letters Yud and He, because again, the letter Yud represents the next world, and the letter He, according to Chazal, represents this world. V'kai malon, and we hold, Kedei risha achas ata mechayvo, according to one act of wickedness, you may obligate a person to receive a punishment. Ve'iyata mechayvo mishum shtei rish'oyos, but you cannot obligate a person to receive two punishments if they did one act of wickedness. You can see this is a Gemara based in Maseches Ksubas. And the Gemara over there is talking about the fact that sometimes a person can do one act but violate two mitzvos, two prohibitions with that one act. And if the act that the person does violates prohibitions that bring different types of punishments, the Gemara teaches us over there that only one punishment can be applied to the person as opposed to two punishments, even though they violated two prohibitions. So just as a simple example, if a person did an act which would obligate the person to receive, let's say, lashes from the court, from Bezdin, malchus from the Bezdin, and also obligate the person to pay money, to pay a fine or a penalty, to pay something based on the action as well, let's say to a person, to another person. So the Gemara over there says that once the perpetrator receives the lashes, then they no longer have to pay the money because of this principle that the person can only receive one punishment for the one action, even though he or she violated two prohibitions. Zera Shimshon continues, Ve'al kain, and therefore, nidonu b'chamura. Therefore, the Nesiim, who could only receive one punishment for their laxity, were judged on the more strict punishment, Shenedra Yud, and the letter Yud was taken out of their name, Shehu Remez La'olam Haba, which alludes to the next world, Shehi HaChamura, which is the more strict punishment, the more severe punishment. So what is the Zera Shimshon saying? He's saying that the Mishkan represented this world and the next world, and this world and the next world are represented by the letters Hey and Yud. So the Nesiim hypothetically should have had both the Hey and the Yud taken out of their name, and shouldn't have, the Torah shouldn't have written Ve'ha-Nesiim with a Hey, but without a Yud, it should have taken out the Hey as well. The Nisiim, and so they would have been punished, so to speak, by having both the Hey and the Yud removed from the word Vahanisiim. But the Zera Shimshon says we don't punish people for one action with two punishments, and therefore we took the most severe punishment, which is to remove the Yud, which represents Olam Haba, from their name, but we left in the Hey, which represents this world. Now the Zera Shimshon in the next paragraph brings a new perspective. Inami, alternatively, Shekol Yisrael Heviu Mamonam. All of the Jewish people brought their own money and their own property. Everyone brought from his or her possessions the things from home that they wanted to donate to the Mishkan, and that were the things that were needed by the people constructing the Mishkan. Dahainu mamon ha'olam hazeh, which means money from this world. Lasos ha'mishkan, to help make the Mishkan, to form and build the Mishkan, shehu simon la'olam haba, which, as we said, is a sign not just for this world, but for the next world as well. Omnam, however, ha'nesiim heviu es avnei ha'shoham, the princes brought the shoham stones, shebo'u lahem derech nes, which came to them in a supernatural way, in a miraculous way, which we'll talk about in a moment. Vahainu kimo momon shel olam haba, and that is like money from the next world. What does this mean? It's based, as you can see again in the parentheses, on a Gemara Meseches Yoma, in which the Gemara states that from the Anane HaKavod, from the clouds, and from the sky, when the mun fell, precious stones and other items also fell to Bnei Yisrael. And that Gemara contends that the Nesiim picked up their precious stones that they donated from the Mishkan, from the stones, from the precious stones that fell from the sky or fell from the Anane HaKavod, along with the mun. So there's a difference here between the Hamon Am, the regular people who brought their gifts from their own possessions, as opposed to the Nesiim who brought their gifts, the precious stones that were not from their own possessions, but rather were from things that they had received from the sky, from the clouds, again, in a supernatural manner. Continuing, and in order that no one should say that the donation of the princes was somehow greater than the donation of the Jewish people, mishum hachi nedra yud mishpam. That's the reason, and that this would be our third reason as to why the yud was removed from their names. Lomar, to say, she'ein lahem kol kach zuchus al zeh. The princes did not have so much merit about bringing the precious stones, shaharei lo heviu klum mimamonam, because they didn't bring anything from their own property. V'hayud hu remes la'olam haba, and the yud alludes to the next world, shenivra b'yud, as we stated based on the Gemara in Menachos, the next world was created through the use of the letter Yud. So the Yud was taken out of their name specifically to tell us that their gift came, so to speak, supernaturally and from the next world, but don't think that that should give them more credit. That actually gives them less zechus and less merit because they didn't bring anything from their own property. Next paragraph. Ve'od ba shalishia, and now a third idea presents itself. He's saying third as opposed to fourth because the Zera Shimshon connects his second and third reason. So from his count, he's bringing now his third idea, his third concept, third answer. B'ma shematzinu ba'osios Rabbi Akiva, what we find in a sefer called the Letters of Rabbi Akiva, Ein Yud Ela Yod. The letter Yud means Yud, that the meaning of the letter Yud, or what the letter Yud represents, is Yod, the hand. The Ein Yod Ela Mona. And the word Yod, hand, has a meaning of a portion. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, and this is a pasuk taken from when Yosef was sitting at the table after he had revealed his identity to his brothers. So the pasuk says, "Vaterev masas Binyamin," and the portion or the gift that was given to Binyamin was more, mimas os kulam, from the more than the gifts of all of the other brothers, chamesh yados, 5 times. Yosef honored Binyamin by giving him gifts and presents that were 5 times as much as the gifts that he gave to his other brothers. And there you see that the word yodos, hands literally, means portion. So the Zera Shimshon is proving or supporting his contention that the word yodos, hands, can have the meaning of portions as it does in that pasuk. Ulefi shehem lo heviu mona, and because they did not bring their portion lenidvas hamishkan, for the donations to the Mishkan, meaning they didn't bring it in a timely fashion, nedra yud, the yud was taken out of their name, to ein yud ella yud, because the letter yud represents the hand, and the hand can be translated as the portion, and they didn't bring their portion on time. They delayed and didn't bring their portion at the right time. So the Zera Shimshon has opened with his question, which is a question that's a very foundational one, and one that is often asked, because just by reading the pasuk, any reader, I should say, any careful reader will notice that the yud is missing from the word v'hanesiim, and many people will then look at Rashi and see Rashi's explanation from the Medrash that the Zera Shimshon started with, that the yud was taken out because they delayed their gift to the Mishkan. And once you read that, then the Zera Shimshon's question comes right to the fore. How is taking a yud from their name in any way an appropriate punishment, so to speak, a midah keneged midah type punishment for them delaying their gift? And then the Zera Shimshon, of course, has brought these several different ways of answering that question and connecting the loss of the letter yud to the laxity and the lack of alacrity that the Nesiim demonstrated at the time of the donations to the Mishkan, but not, it's important to remember and to note again, but not at the time of the donations for Chanukas HaMizbech, the dedication of the Mizbech, when the Nesiim showed that they had truly learned their lesson, and they would not allow themselves to have anyone else bring gifts before they brought their extremely generous and extremely important donations for that occasion. Yasher Koch to joining us in this week's learning of the Zera Shimshon, and Be'ezus Hashem, God willing, we look forward to learning again in the Zera Shimshon on next week's Parsha.